Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, this Bava Batra daf Kuf Chavav. We're going to begin on the bottom of Kuf Chav Hamid Beis to remind us of these important halachos. Amra Papa Hilchasa Inabal Noitel Boroi Kivamochsuk. So, as we saw in yesterday's daf, the husband cannot inherit from his wife, even though normally he would. But let's say the wife was anticipating to be able to get a Yerusha, let's say from her parent, but the wife died first. So we don't say that after his wife died, then his wife's parent died later, that the husband would get that. No. Even though if it would have been the other way around, the husband would have gotten the Yerusha, because it's considered roy. It was only fit to come to the wife, but since she died first, husband doesn't get it. That we said many times, that when it comes to getting the double portion, it has to be something that is at the time of the father's death, that he already has it, not something which is fit to receive it. Also, when it comes to any loan, whether they collected with land or with money, even though we saw it was different opinions that make a distinction between karka and mois, we say no matter what, he does not get pishnayim. However, on Kuf Chavav Amud Aleph, milva she'imo palgi. If it's a milva that the boy, the bechor, owes the father, he actually borrowed money from his father, and then the father died, then it's divided up. Says the Rashbam, Chelk b'chayra yachol b'nehem. That is divided up. Why? Because the Havil Mamon Safik v'cholken. The famous words of Sumchus, that when there's a case of a doubt, we just split it down the middle. Then you do, we don't know. He chashiv muchsek laviv. Is that money chashiv considered as it's muchsek to the father? Shahari habachor roitza who was shabe nechasav aviv legamri. He actually would want it to be linked to the father, and therefore, because it's muchsek, then he'd be entitled to the double portion of it. Right? So his father will get he'll get it, and then he'll be able to get the pishnayim. So he wants his father to be muchsek in it. When it comes to any other loan, maybe not. There's no. We already said that it's considered to be roy. Maybe if it's him owing his father money, it is considered muchsek, because that's what he would want. That's how we understand the Rashbam. Okay, Amar Abhuna Amar Rav Asi, Bechor Shemicha Micha. Now a Bechor who would protest, that would be a good protest. What is that referring to? So basically it means if the Bechor initially objected and requested that they split up the estate before making improvements, then he does get pishnayim on that. Says Rashbam, even though it's true that after the father died, any improvements that were made by the assignment by him and his brothers, he will not get pishnayim on that. Miu, however, if let's say the boy objected initially, he said, Al tishbichu chelki, ela nachak miad. Don't make any improvements. Let's divide it now. Let's not make improvements. Let's first divide everything up. And then I'll be able to improve my two portions myself. They said, no, we're not going to do it. We're not splitting it up now. In that situation, because he made a macha, it's good macha. Amar Rabba, Mastaber time in Rav Asi. The reasoning of Rav Asi is logical, is probably in the case of Ba'anavim Uvitzorim. If we're dealing with grapes and they cut them down, Zaysim olives Umasikum, and they plucked the olives. Why? Says the Rashbam, Ba'anavim Mechubarim Uvitzorim Yisaimim. All they did was just detach them. In that situation, when he making a macha, he would get pishnayim. So you would say that he should be entitled to pishnayim there. But if they pressed the grapes or pickled them, then we would not say that. It says Rashbam, now the case before, it's like you stole a cow and it became more valuable. There's really no change. You just, like, you plucked a grape and it's still there. Instead of being mechor, it's tolish. But in this case, where they actually did some type of shinu maisa by pressing it, in that case, even though he made a mechor, Loy shakal b'chor pishnayim, says the Rashbam, he would not get kiddunan. Hagayzel eitzim v'yasam kalim, as we saw in Bava Kama. A person steals wood, but he makes it into, it's a shini maisa. Now he makes it into a a wooden spoon. Masham kashas gzela. So he only has to pay the time that he stole it for a piece of wood. The kind of shinoi, because he made a shinoi, and therefore that's the reason it's a kinyan. Hachinami. So too, the Yisayim, even though they made a macha, but they made a shinoi by taking the grapes and making it until it's a grape juice. Kach nira be'enai. That's how the Rashbam explains it. For Ben Chananel Piresh, b'chor shemicha, he protested. Ve'oyimer, eni mavater chelik b'chora, I don't want to give up my portion. Dayoi, eni mavater chelik b'chora, dayoi, that's it. He doesn't have to protest again. The Amarabba, Hani Mili, Kishimicha Banavim, Uvitsarim, Zaysam, Latsuk, Moscow. That's when he doesn't have to protest a second time. So he says, what you need to do is you need to make a second macha. But maybe a second macha would be a macha, because your first mechal was on the grapes, and now the second one has to be on the squeeze. V'loy nearly. So the Rashbam says a couple of reasons why he doesn't agree to that thought process of the Rabbeinu Chananel. Let's look at question 1. But if they're oppressed, not. Based Pirushim the Rashbam. Not an easy question. So Micha, what was the protest? That you shouldn't improve my portion. I want to take Pishnayim now, Gam Shvach, because he wants the improvements, also the Pishnayim on the Shvach. Because otherwise, we say that he doesn't get the Pishnayim on the Shvach, Shishvichach, and Misas Avihen. However, the press, the Havli Gazela, the Kinyan B'Shinoi. There's a Kinyan, and therefore that's the reason why he wouldn't get it there. Micha she'enu mavater chelik b'chayra means that he didn't give up on his chelik b'chayra. V'im darchum, if they pressed it, v'lo micha shenis, and he didn't protest a second time, hivsid chelik b'chayra, then he does lose out on his chelik b'chayra. Okay. All right. Weiter. So the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yosef Omer Afil Darchum. No, it doesn't make any difference. Even if they press them, even in that situation, he holds it's the same din, there would be a good macha. Let's look at the Rashbam here, in the middle of this Rashbam. Abahacha, B'maya Skinan, Shepachas Hayayin, the wine went down in the valley of Nishmach, and it spilled out when his kalkel got ruined. Shin Shava Kidmei Anavim. If somehow it became less valuable than it once was. Even if they squeeze them, and now it lessened in value. So instead, he'll be able to get the Pishnayim as though the way they were before. Since he protested, he didn't want them to do this. They had no right to squeeze his olives or grapes. Therefore, so it's kind of like they stole it because he was entitled. He said, "He making macha. I don't want you to do this." They did it anyway. So it's kind of like they stole from their own brother, and therefore, because of that, he holds that they tackle wood. The macha would work, and in fact, he would get. In the case where it went down in value, he'd get the better value of it before it was squeezed. Umar Omer Chada will pligi. Okay, all right. So Darchum, in fact, the Gemara Mikara in v'hashtachamra. Before it was grapes, now it's wine. So Kedem Rav Ukva Bar Chama Litin Lo Demei Hezek Anavav, to give him the value of the damage of the grapes. Hachanam Litin Lo Demei Hezek Anavav. So Hechi Hitmar Rav Ukva Bar Chama. Where did he say this? Yom Rabbi Yehuda Mer Shmuel Bechor Upashut. Let's say you have a firstborn child and a pashut. Shehaniach Lehenavihen Anavim, and they were given grapes. Uvatstrum, and they removed them. Zaysim olives u moskum, and they plucked them off the tree, so of the vine. So b'chor noitel pishnayim, he gets double portion on that. A field darchum, even if they were pressed. So darchum mikara in ve hashtachara. Understand, it's separate. So how could he get pishnayim in that? So memorikva baracham alitel demei hezek anavav, that he should be able to get the value as we said before. Okay, Rav Asi. Bechor shenatal chel kaposhit. So let's say Bechor takes a portion just like a pasha. In other words, when it comes to a particular field, so he was supposed to take a double amount of a field, and instead he just took one of the fields. There's thousands of fields over here, but he's looking at here's this certain amount of this field. Instead of it being split 2/3 and 1/3, he took only half. So by doing that, viter. So he was Michael the pishnayim. So my viter, but how much? Rapapa mishmei the Rabbi Aimer viter ba'isasada. He only gave up on that field, but when it comes to the other 1,000 fields, he can now still divide it up 2/3 and 1/3. However, Rapapi mishmei the Rabbi Aimer no viter b'chol nechasim kulan. Once he shows that he does not take upon himself the din of pishnayim, then that applies for everything too. Only that field. That really nothing belongs to the Bechor before the division. As the Rashbam says, as we said before, Bechor is like a gift. And then because that is adi yasli yade the makabel matana hilka chaysada shibol yado chelkim mimena. So it's only considered his field only once he has it, and therefore matzi machol. Oh, so because of that, hilkach matzi machol, he can be moichel on it before. Avol b'shar nechasim ul matzi machol. Anything else he can't. In adam akna rebeshel be'oilom. Diad shas chalukah lo zachi b'hu. The koshka mechel pshitos lo zachu kodem chalukah. So that's one answer. Why everything? Cool one, because that he actually does have rights. He does have ownership before. And once he was Michael in one field, so therefore he has the ability to be Michael on them. So the point is that does he have the ability halachically to have been Michael on everything else before it actually went into his hands? This machlokes is not actually explicit, but only through deduction. There was once a person that he went and sold his possessions, the pashut, as well as the possessions of his brother. Also Yasmine Pashut, so the Yisrael of the Bnei Pashut came. Well, Mechel Tamri to eat some dates, Hanhu Lakuchais Machunhu. So from this field, and all of a sudden they started hitting him. Now, since this was sold without their father's reshus, they thought they had a right to take the dates. So Amilhu Kroivim, Umastaya the Zamnitinhu and the Chosaihu. It's not enough that you sold something which was against our will, that you sold without my father's permission. We're also getting hit, right? So what right do we have to do this? Says Rashbam, right? So he sold his right, which maybe he had an ability to do because it was his, but not his brother's. So also made a rebel lo asav klum. What the Bechor did was nothing, right? It says Rashbam, this was not considered to be a sale. He had no ability, no right whatsoever to be able to sell it because it wasn't in his hands to have sold it. So Mar Samar lost a klum bepalga. Maybe he only didn't have a right to sell his brother's portion, says Rashbam. chelik peshitusai, the kol shekein b'chelik poshet echa. Certainly his brothers. Of a b'chelik b'chayra, his own, Yafim Machar, he was allowed to sell that. He has a right to sell something even before it's divided. So that's according to that opinion. The other opinion says no, even his own chelik, because since it was kaidim chaluka, he also had no right to sell it. So the truth is it doesn't work at all. Alma, and we see in fact that he has no rights to do so, and therefore he has no right to sell it at all, even his own property, which he would eventually been entitled to. The Hilcha say Yeshua B'char Kadam Chalukah. Actually, he could. Mar Zutra Midarishba Polig Batsana Depolpoli. So he said regarding. Actually, let's look at the Rashbam. The Hilcha said yes. V'yiter b'chol hanachasim kulan mishum damatana kari rachmana. Okay, and therefore he was considered to be like giving it up completely. All right. So tzana is a salamoli popol in a basket filled of peppers, bahadi achin b'shava, and they were selling it by that with his brothers equally. Asking the Ravashi, Amalei hoyel v'yetarta b'miksa, since you gave up on some, v'yetar b'chol nachasim kulan. Okay. Masnis haimer ish ploini b'ni b'chor lo yitol pishnayim. So if a person says that this child, ish ploini, this son is my b'chor, lo yitol pishnayim, I do not want this child to receive pishnayim, and he is my b'chor. Or ish ploini b'ni lo yirish im echav, I don't want him to inherit at all. Lo mer klum shehisna almash kasav b'tayra. The Torah says that there's a din chalukah, that you have a requirement of giving certain amounts as Yerusha to a b'chor, to the other children, so you can't go against what the Torah says. But Torah is Yerusha. Hamachalak nachasiv al piv. So in that case, get over klum. Says Rashbam, Yidiochel Salkim Yerusha Yisu El Aide Sheet and Lashon Matana. As I said, it's only an issue of its Lashon Yerusha, but if it's Lashon Matana, so it would work. Okay. Then the Gemara continues. The Mishnah says, Hamachalak nachasiv al piv. The tzavos shchimiros. They have a person who is dying. Eno sricha kinyan. So the din is typically that individual we're lenient, and we don't require that person to make a kinyan. He doesn't need a star, he doesn't need no mashicha. His words alone. You could go into his Rashbam shemitzvah machmas misa. It's a mitzvah to listen to him because he is going to die. So a person who's dividing his possessions at that point, al piv, based on his own words, in which because he's a shchimi it works. Ribo echad umidl echad, he gives a lot to one kid as a gift. He gives like double to one, etc., or less to the other. V'hishva lehen, that's a bechor, or he gives the bechor the equal amount and not pishnayim devar kayam, and then it will work. Says Rashbam, sheish kayach ba'adam litin memoino b'matana. You can give your money as a gift to anyone. And that's what it was. You're not going against the Torah. Nothing will be left over after he dies. He's not nothing. Taras Yerusha means a person dies and then it's given over as an inheritance. But over here, it's being given as a gift, and that's it. However, when he uses that language of Yerusha, that changes things, and therefore we'll klum, because then you're masa mash kasam taira. Kasav bein b'chil bein be'emsa bein b'sayim mishum matana devar kayam. And if you just throw in the word matana at any point, beginning, middle, or end, therefore that changes things. There's no longer lashon Yerusha, and therefore it will work. Okay. So we see clear from the Mishnah, you can't go against what the Torah says. However, maybe it's a machlokes. When it comes to monetary matters, a person is allowed to go against the Torah when it comes to monetary points. The Sanya, beautiful, marry me, but I want to have no obligations to you. I don't have to, no intimate relations with you is required. No food, no clothes, nothing. So it is a good condition tonight. The condition afterwards is nothing, because you can't be masa mash kasam Torah. When it comes to bia, that doesn't mean anything. You actually have to, of course, you have a chiyuv in that relationship. But when it comes to monetary matters, okay. So we see when it comes to kedushin that you could be masa mash kasam Torah. So l'chayra, this mission is not like him. Now, feel Rabbi Yehuda. Hasam over there by marriage, Yada, the woman knows what she's getting herself into. The Kamachla, she's Meichel, she's okay, I don't need the food. I don't need to eat so much. Hacha, Lokal Machel. But in this case, when it comes to the din of Yerusha, the child's not being Meichel. Says the Rashbam. Hasam Kamachla, Shalm Nas Kain, on this condition, Kibul Kedushin. Vahi Hana, the Mekadesh Lo Machale. So the Hana, being Mekadesh her, she was Meichel. Right? Abel Hacha by Yerusha, Mi Machel. Who's being Meichel? Ma Hana Yeshloi, Leben Shiyim Choil. Even though the child is silent, that's nothing. He doesn't want to get his father angry, right? He's hoping at least get something, so he doesn't want to get his father even more angry. Rav Yosef says the Gemara, this child is my firstborn. I don't want him to get Pishnaim. Or I say, Ish Ploini Bechor, who Enu Noitel Pishnaim. In that case, he will not get Pishnaim. So again, if you say Ploini B'ni B'chayri, who, then he will get Pishnaim. If you say Ish Ploini B'chor, you don't say B'chori, my firstborn, he does not get. Why? Because Dilma Buchor to Ima Kamar. Maybe he is a firstborn, but he's the mother's firstborn. And we know that when it comes to the din of Yerusha, it's totally on Rashis Oinai. It's totally on the husband. The Yerusha goes by the husband. So therefore, who's the husband's firstborn? Who's the father's firstborn? And therefore, it's possible that this child is a firstborn, but the mother's firstborn. And therefore, that may be good for, let's say, Pidyon Haben, but Peter Rechem, but not when it comes to Yerusha. Question TA. Ha'aymer ish ploini b'ni b'chor, who? Ha'im neman litel pishtayim, no. Madua, because Dilma Bucher de Imahu. Okay. Hahu de asa l'kamei de Rabba. Ba Ramhud Amalei Muchzagni Buzeshu Bukhar. I am establishing as a chazaka that this child, in fact, is a firstborn. But he didn't say Bukhari. So Amalei Minayada, how you know? The Havi Karile Avua, because I know the father used to say, Bukhar Sichla, this foolish firstborn. Bukhar Sichla. Dilma Bukhar Imahu, but maybe he's a firstborn from his mother. The whole Bukhar the Ima Nami Bukhar Sichla Karu lay. That's actually maybe the opposite. It shows that it's not really his firstborn, it's her firstborn. Hahudi also coming to Rabbi Chanina Armulay Mukhzani Bozeshu Bukhar. I know he's the firstborn. So Armulay Menoyada. How do you know? So Armulay the Chi Havi also Gabi Avu when he went to his father Armulahu Zil Gabi Shikhas Bari. Go to Shichas, which is the person's name, my son. The Bukhar who Umasi Ruke. Go to him, says the Rashbam, Shem HaBachor, V'lav Hainu B'rei, it's not really his son. Umasi Ruke L'ayin, and like put saliva into the eye. So V'dilma Bukhar de Imohu, maybe in fact it's the mother, right? Maybe, how do you know it's his firstborn? Maybe it's her firstborn. So Gemiri, Bukhar de Alba, we know that when it comes to the firstborn of the son, to the father, Masi Ruke, the saliva will heal the eyes. Bukhar de Ima will Masi Ruke, but the saliva will not help the eyes if it's not his firstborn, but her firstborn. So the fact that he said that, then, in fact, it would work, to be. Oimer v'ad, v'oimer eid echad, imo muchzani b'zeh shehu b'chor, v'oimer la'aviv, there was a witness that said, the masi ruke ha'im neman umadua, so in that case he is neman, because the b'chor, the ima will masi ruke. That would not heal the eyes. Okay, we're going to stop there. Question TA21. Be'ez oif TA20. B'chor shendat achel kaposh viter, ama viter, mamazet toloi. So the question is, if he gave up his firstborn right for this particular field, does that mean he gave up for everything else also? So irak ba'oisa sada o b'chol nachasim v'toli iyeshel b'chor kaidim chaluka matzil vater bekoil. Is it possible that before the division he's able to give up everything? He's not able to do that before the chalukah. He can't do such a thing. Okay, question TB 21. Exactly the same question. Kuf Chaf Vav Amid Aleph as question 20, TA 20. This is TB 21. Okay. Icon.